boyfriend and schoolgirl feeding in the cafeteria. My roommate told me to go over and catch the rape. My hand shook, and a bowl of soup was sprinkled on the school bully passing by. There was a vegetable leaf on his handsome head, looking for death. I shuddered, turned around and ran. However, he can hide from the first day of junior high school, but he can't hide from the 15th. After 2 years of enrollment, I finally have my name on the confession wall, or hand-picked by school bullies. See you in the Grove tonight. If you don't come, you'll be finished. When Xaviera Steele messaged me, I was lying in bed scrolling through my phone. When I clicked on the feeding picture in the group, the phone almost didn't smash the bridge of my nose. Jonathan Agnes actually got together with my school sister behind my back. Also show affection in the canteen. I was a carp and went straight to the direction of the scumbag, and 3 minutes later, I stood in front of the scumbag and picked up the green vegetable, an egg drop soup on his table. Just as he was about to splash it on his head, he didn't know which idiot hit him, and the stainless steel bowl turned around, go straight to the school bully. In the next second, the school bully's handsome inch was stained with a vegetable leaf, and the cold and hard jaw was dripping with water. Are you looking for death? No. That one. In fact, he came to catch the traitor. Help me. As soon as I turned around, the dog man and woman had long since disappeared. I froze in place, and the school bully bullied me, and the fierce light in my eyes almost shot through me. After staring at each other for a few seconds, 4 words slowly rolled out of his throat. Have a grudge against me? I'm a limp leg. Directly supported the waist of the school bully. He froze in place. Where are you going? I quickly stood up straight, and stared at the vegetable leaves on his head. No hatred. Next second, I was dragged out of the cafeteria by the school bully. Help me. Are you going to find a no man's land and keep me private? In just 1 minute's journey, my mind turned 80 times, and I was afraid that Joshua Steele would send me to the western sky. Joshua Steele. Actually, it's to get your attention. His back froze for a moment, and he walked out without looking back. It's embarrassing. It seems that the charm of this beauty is not enough. 2 minutes later, Joshua Steele lifted her head from the pool, and shook the water off her clothes, her eyes suggestive. I know. Either lose money or wash it up. I looked at him sincerely, or, catching a glimpse of the sign on his clothes, I hurriedly stopped, and made an emergency turn. You took it off. I'm just a poor student, Gucci really can't afford to lose. Joshua Steele grinded his back molars, crossed his slender arms, lifted them up, and threw the t-shirt directly at me. You wash. Don't let me find a stain. The next second, his hand reached for the waistband of his pants. I quickly withdrew my gaze from my abs, rushed forward with a lunge, and held him tightly. Can't be impulsive? Boys should also protect themselves. He narrowed his eyes and squinted at me. What for? I shuddered. This. Not really, right? He stared straight at me and didn't speak. I thought, you go on. Take it off. I don't know if it's my delusion, but the tips of Joshua Steele's ears seemed to be red. He gritted his teeth, his slender fingertips only 10 centimeters from the belt. Turning the direction, he reached for his trouser pocket, pulled out a cigarette, and bit it in his mouth. Help, it's embarrassing. I almost thought the school bully was going to run naked in front of me. After smoking a cigarette, Joshua Steele finally looked up, his voice a little hoarse. Come with me. Help me. That. I'm going back in a hurry. Do the laundry? Dragged all the way back to the dormitory by Joshua Steele, I felt like 5 or 6 flashes were shining overhead. The return rate is extremely high. He went back to the dorm and asked me to wait at the door. My heart is pounding, and the school bully won't shout at someone to beat me, right? The phone suddenly went crazy ticking. With trembling hands, I took it out and saw that the dormitory group had exploded. Sybil Jordan, you're on fire. Hurry up to the forum. Everyone is rumoring that you peeked at Joshua Steele taking a shower and was caught red. Family, A whole society is dead. Is life important, or is face important? Of course, it's face. I peeked in the door to see the shadow of Joshua Steele, quickly changed my hairstyle, and ran. A school bully is a school bully, and without contact information, he can't stop him from chasing his soul. An hour later, Joshua Steele hung me on the confession wall. Sybil Jordan, huh? See you in the Grove tonight. If you don't come, you'll be finished. The moon was dark and the wind was high, and I shook my hands and handed the milk tea to Joshua Steele. He was half leaning against the trunk of the tree, and he lifted his eyelids to look at me. What for? Lose your... He raised his eyebrows. Compensation me. I nodded my head again and again, like a chicken pecking rice. Joshua Steele approached, his dark eyes sweeping over. Won't you chase me? Help me. Do you have to finish the performance while kneeling? I was about to say something when Joshua Steele's phone rang. The other end didn't know what to say, and he said coldly, "It's not done yet." I couldn't help but shake twice. Settle. Everyone else thinks Lao Tzu has been looked down on. There's no room for your face. Family, I'm done. After saying that, the phone was hung up. Joshua Steele's eyes were fixed on me, as if they were going to eat me alive. Before he could speak, my legs were weak again. Seeing that he was about to touch his waist again, he hurriedly bent and grabbed his arm. Finally stood firm, slowly raised his eyes. Joshua Steele's good-looking face and high nose are pressing over inch by inch. The scorching breath hit my face, and my thin lips slowly spit out 2 words. Play with me. My legs went weak again, and I held on. Trunk. Something fell, and I shook it slightly, and my lips touched something soft. The air froze instantly. Joshua Steele and I stared at each other, lip to lip, and froze for several seconds. He rolled his Adam's apple, and pulled me away from the back of my neck. Don't kiss me next time without my consent. I'm sorry, but I'm taking advantage of the school bully again. It's all the branches to blame. The light was dim, and the tips of Joshua Steele's ears seemed to be red. The summer night was slightly cool, and my face was a little hot. There was an awkward silence. Suddenly, a coquettish moan came to my ears. Help me. My face turned redder. Next, there is a sticky female voice mixed with saliva. Do you feel like kissing me? Or with an ex-girlfriend? How can she be so good? She forced her on me. I followed the sound and looked over, and sure enough, I saw Jonathan Agnes. There's still that schoolgirl hanging on her body. In the next second, the head was broken back. Talking to my grandfather, do you dare to get distracted? Joshua Steele was moving too fast, and I looked over again. His voice gritted his teeth, a little. I haven't gossiped yet. Can I say? Did I eat my own melon? The voices over there continued. If I hadn't hit her, you'd have been a soup chicken a long time ago. She still wants to embarrass me. It's good to have her. So you can fish, and you have the ability to get the school bully. Joshua Steele seemed to understand something, and the interest in her eyes grew. Ex-boyfriend. Before I could speak, he spoke again. Did he cheat? Help me. I was so embarrassed that my face turned red for a moment. He seems to think you're not worthy of me. It's so angry. He suddenly came over, and my nerves tensed for a moment. What's wrong? They're looking at you. He chuckled. Ex-girlfriend, who doesn't taste good enough. I gritted my teeth and crossed my heart, hooked his neck, and slowly leaned up. 10 centimeters, 5 centimeters, 3 centimeters. He didn't move, locked in my eyes. Never mind. As soon as he wanted to retreat, the back of his neck was clasped, cowardly. My voice trembled. Joshua Steele. What's wrong? I have a cramp in my foot. Why is it that every time I meet Joshua Steele, it is a large-scale social death scene? He glanced at me, and the mocking smile on his face faded. Leaned over and picked me up, and walked in the direction of the dog man and woman. What's going on? You. I struggled slightly, just help me. His body froze for a moment, and his voice was stolen. Sybil Jordan, don't rub. I was slightly stunned. What? His Adam's apple swayed up and down. Equinox. I didn't dare to move. Joshua Steele put me on the flower bed, and I was about to lean over to rub it for myself, but Joshua Steele's hand was already reaching. His palms are warm with strength, and he carefully stretches and massages. I bit my lip and stared at the sharp face, sighing that he also had a gentle side. I don't know how long it took. The tightness slowly dissipated, and the legs suddenly felt a little itchy. I hurriedly withdrew my legs. Joshua Steele raised her eyes. Comfortable. I shoved the milk tea into his arms. Thank you. Joshua Steele looked at me amusedly. Compensate me or thank me. I'm so embarrassed. Or I'll invite you to drink milk tea next time. Joshua Steele smiled and didn't speak. Clothes, too. I'll pay you back next time. I turned to run, but I was grabbed by the collar. What are you running? Is there anything else? He sneered. What's next? My heart is weak. I choke. Joshua Steele's face was gloomy, and he called up the QR code. Sweep. The following week, I tried all kinds of home remedies, and went back and forth between the school and the dry cleaners. Finally, I found that the oil stains on my clothes could not be removed at all. I tremble every day and click on Wish It. Found out that Joshua Steele didn't contact me at all. Very good. Awesome. The school bully has completely forgotten about it. There is still a month before the exam, and I decided to cram me in advance and was preparing to find a classroom to brush up on the questions. There was a slight cool touch on the back of his neck, and his collar was jerked. I turned my head in displeasure, just about to have a seizure. Into Joshua Steele's ruffian eyes, immediately coaxed. There's no hurry. That dress. Say it again. I don't seem to have a chance to confess and forgive. In the study hall, Joshua Steele and I have 2 seats between us. I buried my head in brushing the questions, and I got stuck. Looking around the empty classrooms, I thought that Joshua Steele was a math student and decided to become a dead horse doctor. I walked over with my notebook in my hand, and I didn't say anything yet. Joshua Steele raised her eyes, swept her gaze, and quickly withdrew it. I only help my wife write questions. What does this mean? I just spilled a bowl of soup on him, and I want me to pay him the whole person. I silently retreated, but my wrist was grabbed. Sit. You're not just helping. I really can't say the word wife, so I decided to be tactful. Do you love writing questions? Joshua Steele looked at me for 2 seconds, then suddenly tilted his head and laughed. Love. Like. It's not impossible. The smile rendered his cold and hard facial features very gently. I was in a daze, and Joshua Steele had already started to write the question. His eyebrows and eyes drooped slightly, his thin lips pursed slightly, his slender and powerful fingers held the pen, and the green tendons on his even-sized forearms were slightly raised. It's a world of difference from the usual casual appearance. There was a slight pain in the door of the brain. Look at the question or look at me. Beauty is wrong. Do you blame me? Joshua Steele didn't dwell on the topic, and I breathed a sigh of relief. A minute later, looking at the clear steps on the homework paper, I couldn't help but give a thumbs up. You're really professional. He leaned back against the table, his feet on the bar, and his voice was lazy. I'm tough in other ways. I was a little blindsided and blinked. Didn't you touch it? He's good at it. I couldn't help but look 3 inches below his umbilicus. Sky. How can I have? Isn't that wrong? His eyes darkened. Where are you looking? My face was so red that I couldn't speak. He laughed slowly. Are you really worried about my body? Obviously it's himself. I quickly brushed it off. I haven't touched it. He was stunned for a moment, then understood, and his face turned crimson. Sybil Jordan. I'm talking about abs. Sky. I'm embarrassed by a capital letter right now. I was careless last time, I argued. Well, touch my abs as soon as we meet. Faced with the facts of the crime, I have nothing to say. The air was silent for 2 seconds, and I was about to run. Sybil Jordan. Joshua Steele stopped me, and I felt bad. He seemed to remember something, and there was a playfulness in his eyes. I'm good looking. Sure enough, the judgment was late. Family, do I plead guilty, or do I quibble in court? Just looked at me for a few seconds. Did you count? This. Patronized and watched. The devil knows how long he watched. Like me? Nope. I quickly denied it. You're not what I like. The temperature around me dropped several degrees Celsius, and I couldn't help but shiver. Help! Did I say something wrong? Joshua Steele's face was gloomy, and his gaze was locked on my face. My little life was pinched in his hands, and my life's urgency was almost exhausted. My mind turned 80 times again, and I hurried to make up for it. I like my brother. You look like a big brother. The eldest brother of the big brothers. The corners of Joshua Steele's mouth twitched slightly, and she hooked her hand at me. I approached him as if I were dead, and stopped at a distance of 30 centimeters from him, with a strong desire to survive. In the next second, the back of my neck was grabbed and I was jerked forward. Joshua Steele slowly leaned in, her long eyelashes approaching little by little. My heart stopped. You won't want to kiss me, will you? Help! My nerves are going to break. I was about to cover my mouth when Joshua Steele's head tilted and her thin lips stopped at my ear. The family almost died again. It's dangerous, like my brother. The burning breath swept over my earlobe, so hot. The hoarse voice exploded in my ears, so itchy. My heart was beating uncontrollably, and I stiffened my head, and let out a HMM. I like to be nice, to be good. Damn, I stammered. Like to be obedient. HMM. Can I say, did I just stutter? I clenched my fists and forced myself to compose. Joshua Steele's breath came into my ear. What's the trick? Why don't you teach me? I can't. I don't dare. I'm going to die. His thin lips opened slightly, and he rolled out 2 words, sister. The voice is sexy. Help, my ears are numb. People are gone. I didn't speak. Joshua Steele whispered, snorted. My legs started to go limp. Joshua Steele. Hot. He was silent. My mind was still messed up, so I pushed him nearby. No response. Push it again. There was no movement. I started to push harder. Joshua Steele snorted, Sybil Jordan. Hey. My hand was held down by him, and under my hand. It's his abs. I quickly withdrew my hand, and was held down by him. Did you know that boys can't touch their waists? I'm guilty, Joshua Steele. I was wrong. Do you still like to be well behaved? No. Nope. He paused for 2 seconds, then dragging out his tone, then what do you think? What? How am I? You can't. I still want to live. Can you? Not quite right. Faced with the proposition, I pretended to be stupid. I don't know. Hey. Joshua Steele is unrelenting. I'll lay out the facts and be reasonable. I haven't tried. I don't know. You still want to try. Help me. I'm in the mouth. You. Let go. Joshua Steele stepped back, leaning lazily against the wall, his slender legs crossed, looking at me for a long time. Ahem. I avoided his gaze. If it's okay, I'll go back to writing the question first. I just turned around. Sybil Jordan. My back sank. Now hearing these 3 words, my whole body trembles. I looked back slowly, and Joshua Steele was turning the pen nonchalantly, not bothering to lift his eyelids. If you don't understand, ask me. Good. Let's go back. Good. After a while, Joshua Steele's phone suddenly vibrated and I don't know what was said. He said impatiently, no. Then, he threw the word, something. I silently sighed. Joshua Steele is so passionate about learning. The next second, his tone was lazy. Accompany my lover to write the question. My head exploded with a bang. Why, you want to come too? Why is my face so hot? I looked up. It was time to change the old fan. It wasn't cool at all. The sun outside the window was sinking little by little, and the exercise book in his hand was turned over page by page. I turned my head to look. Good fellow, Joshua Steele, who was obsessed with studying, fell asleep. I leaned over, held my breath, and watched Joshua Steele's sleeping face. The man's eyes were slight, his breathing was steady, and his long eyelashes drew a beautiful silhouette. The afterglow of the setting sun shone on his face, and there was a feeling that the years were quiet. The yellow line, which is clearer than my life plan, is now outlined by light and shadow. My heart pounded. Some people, on the surface, it's a school bully who dragged him to the sky, but it's nothing more than that when he falls asleep. I pinched my palm. Hiss. Hurt. Now is the time to appreciate beauty. Run away. I just turned around and kicked the stool. Help me. I'm stupid. He shouldn't be awake, right? I quickly turned around and met Joshua Steele's dark eyes. What are you doing? Peeking at me again. I smiled. You're pretty good. Do you like it? Joshua Steele's head was still resting on her arm, and her eyes looked like she was going to take me in, even though she was languid. Sure enough, any quiet years are illusions, and any well-behaved brother is an illusion. His eyes were locked on my face, and my throat tightened, and I was suddenly speechless. You like it? What is this? Self-questioning. Foul. I quickly clarified, I don't like you. He slowly propped up his chin. Then what are you panicking about? I didn't panic. Sybil Jordan, you're stammering. I blinked and slammed my chest. I'm scared of you. Joshua Steele smirked. Am I that scary? I packed my bag without looking up. You are more terrible than the beast of the flood. Before leaving, I couldn't hold back and glanced at Joshua Steele. I saw that his thin lips were slightly open, and he was about to make an O-mouth shape. I presently stopped. I have something to do. Let's talk next time. Back in the dormitory, turn on the computer and look up the price. Good guys, 28,500 Chinese yuan. Just a torn t-shirt, more than my living expenses in a year. Trembling, I opened my phone and clicked on Joshua Steele's chat box. A message flashed in and startled me. Run for what? Nonsense. Don't you run, and wait for you to collect the body for me? Without waiting for my reply, another message. What do you think? Can you escape? I looked at the 28,500 Chinese yuan on the screen. Silence. Joshua Steele's deadly series of Weshit continues. Where's my clothes? Hanging in your closet. Reluctant to give me back. You're not going to treasure it, are you? The ability is limited, and it can't be cleaned. Then, I banged and beat for a minute. Before it could be sent, another message came in. What then? You're not going to want to pay off, are you? What are these words? How does he know? I was about to learn about my miserable life, moving my snot and tears, when Joshua Steele's message popped up. Sybil Jordan, it's useless to cry poor. I don't eat this. Can this man read minds? Excuse me. My hand shook, and the message I had just edited was sent. Joshua Steele, I don't have much to live on every month. I only dare to drink soup and eat meat when I go to the cafeteria, and I don't even dare to buy new clothes. Your clothes are too expensive. I really can't afford it or forget it. The implication is obvious. Everyone who understands understands. Unfortunately, Joshua Steele ignored me. I looked up. My eyes were on the screen, rubbing my eyes, hoping that I would see one more zero. Miracles didn't strike. Xaviera Steele did. Look at what? So energetic. I hugged Xaviera Steele's waist and said, I can't afford to pay for his Gucci. Xaviera Steele waved her hand. Don't be afraid, sister has a way. I'm a spirit, what's the solution? I'll pay you to him. At this time, the phone emits a message tone. Joshua Steele finally got me back. I nodded excitedly. Every morning at 7:15 a.m., can you in canteen? Buy breakfast and wait for me. 28 after 2 days. I wanted to escape, but I couldn't. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. I looked at Xavier Steele pitifully. How can he look down on me? What he likes is clearly my free labor. Who would have thought that early in the morning, I would see a scumbag in a come out and be embarrassed? These two people really treat the canteen as their own home. Morrible resembles a humanoid pendant attached to Jonathan Agnes. With a thin spoon in her hand, slender Jade was feeding soy milk to Jonathan Agnes' mouth. If I don't go to the diaphragm, I won't be surnamed Jordan. As soon as I put down the plate, my phone rang. Joshua Steele asked me where I was. I waved to the door, and he walked over with a pair of long legs and sat down directly across from him. Jonathan Agnes and Morrible glanced at Joshua Steele and continued to show affection. People with a low moral bottom line have really strong psychological quality. As if it wasn't the two of them who fled last time. Did Jonathan Agnes split his leg, or was he in a car accident? IQ degenerates directly into 3 years old. I picked up the tea eggs, peeled them off slowly, and handed them to Joshua Steele. He stared at me, not moving. Failed off to a hard start. Joshua Steele, such an arrogant and rebellious person, how can he cooperate with me? The next to her let out a soft snort. I couldn't hold my face. My hand was frozen for 2 seconds, and I was about to retract it. Joshua Steele looked down and took a bite. No. What about his hands? He should get his hands on it. How to bite it? Good guy, he's better than me. Joshua Steele looked at me lazily. 1,000 yuan for breakfast. The service is really on point. I really want to stuff the tea egg in his mouth. I held back. The world is big, and the creditor is the biggest. I carefully handed the tea egg to his lips, and gently reminded, slow down, don't choke. After eating, Joshua Steele stopped in front of the meal card recharge machine, and I was ready to evacuate first. He stretched out his long hand, meal card. I handed it to him. What's wrong? I looked at his slender fingers, typing the numbers one by one, first a 2 followed by a 4 zeros. No, I quickly pressed his hand. What are you doing? Please eat meat. Are you an ambassador for poverty alleviation? The corners of Joshua Steele's mouth twitched. Who cried with me at night? Joshua Steele. This is covering me like a little brother. Although I was very moved, I couldn't take it. I pulled back my school card, and held my head high. I'm poor and ambitious. Joshua Steele's face sank. Sybil Jordan, can you play with me? Joshua Steele, you mean what you say. After 28 days, we'll write it off. I slipped away. I didn't expect to meet Joshua Steele at the club meeting. I pretended to be blind, and didn't see it. Xavier Steele didn't forget to remind me. What's going on with Joshua Steele? I mean simply, I want to go to heaven. I really don't want to live when I think about the early days ahead. Every morning at 6:15, it is not a dream that wakes me up, but an alarm clock to collect debts. Xavier Steele did not reply. I switched office software, prepared to cast the screen, and went on stage to speak. After it was over, I clicked on Wish It casually, and the message of Xavier Steele jumped out. Joshua Steele is in good shape. You're too blunt. Come on, him. What's this? Heaven and earth conscience, how can I mean this? With a girlfriend full of colored paints, I really want to bang against the wall. There was a commotion under the stage, and everyone's eyes were on the big screen in unison. I suddenly had a bad feeling. Stiff back. Bluetooth is not broken. My chat with Xavier Steele was cast. The audience had 360 degrees without dead ends, and watched at close range. I really want to take off and spiral into the sky. Well, Wait a minute. There seems to be a bunch of people at the scene whose pants have fallen off. Do you want to go to heaven? Yes, I want to go to heaven too. Joshua Steele. It lasts a long time, when you look at it. There are many who scold me. Who is this woman? So shameless. I'm crazy about men. That's Joshua Steele. Pounce. The last time you peeked at Joshua Steele taking a shower. Repeat sexual harassers. I clenched my fists and silently returned to my seat. How do rumors come about? Splashing dirty water doesn't cost at all. There was a lot of commotion around me, and I just felt my chest clogged. Suddenly, shut up, or get out. Joshua Steele is a loud voice, but it is full of intimidation. The restlessness of the scene was suppressed, and I slowly breathed a sigh of relief. At the end of the meeting, there was another commotion around me, and I looked towards the stage. Through the crowd, Joshua Steele's gaze fell on the with unmistakable accuracy. On me. I was thrilled. Joshua Steele held the microphone, looked at me, and said word by word, Sybil Jordan, I'm covered. Whoever dares to chew the root of his tongue, behind his back will bear the consequences. The venue was silent. 5 seconds later, a burst of erupted cry. It's official. My man has been touched by. See through the red dust. Don't stop. Sister wants to be a nun. What is this? Joshua Steele pats the microphone. I am looking forward to it, and the Lord is ready to clarify, and the rumors will stop immediately. Not leaving. Don't go, stay and mop the floor. I took advantage of the chaos to squeeze out, and the strap of my schoolbag was jerked. Sybil Jordan. A call from Joshua Steele, belatedly arrived. I followed him and walked against the current to the classroom. He sat down on the table, dangling his long legs. Tell me. Say what? I don't understand. Want me? It's not. My face flushed instantly. I want to go up to the sky. I dragged the tail note and pointed upward. Heaven. Got it. Joshua Steele. Huh. I was in a hurry. Heaven is heavenly. It's not that one. Help me. It seems to be the same. Help me. How do I explain this? My head was a mess. Joshua Steele's good-looking face leaned in. You're hot. My face is probably red to shrimp. Joshua Steele laughed. It's hot when you see me. What a tiger and wolf words. I didn't. I explained dryly. Why is that face so red? Joshua Steele quipped. You can roast sweet potatoes. My head went blank for 2 seconds, and I hurriedly changed the topic, and then preemptively. Why didn't you clarify just now? Joshua Steele was led astray by me. He frowned. What? Let's. I paused. No shower, no peeping, no story. Joshua Steele chuckled, laughing non-stop. My face turned redder. I don't know how long it took, but a smile hid in the corner of his mouth, didn't peek. He seems to be starting to help me remember. I quickly pounced on him and covered his mouth. Feeling the soft touch of my subordinates, I froze in place. Joshua Steele looked straight at me, and I shrank back like a hot hand. With a weak heart, he put his hands behind his back, and did not dare to speak. Joshua Steele looked at me for 2 seconds, then leaned closer, and my heart tightened. Are you hungry? I breathed a sigh of relief and nodded frantically. Joshua Steele grabbed her school bag. Let's go. I'll take you to eat meat. Crowded cafeteria window. I ordered a steak. To Joshua Steele, that's enough. I gritted my teeth and ordered another spaghetti. Again, that's the same sentence. The character set up by himself has to be finished while kneeling. In the next second, Joshua Steele handed over another plate. Auntie, steak, hot dog, beef stew, all one. He turned to look at me, and asked softly, is that enough? The surrounding classmates brushed and twisted their heads. Enough is enough. I really want to find a crack in the ground to get into. The cafeteria aunt's voice was loud. Little girl, don't be shy. It's a blessing to be able to eat. I don't want to eat meat in my life. Back in the dorm, the butt hasn't fallen on the chair yet. Xaviera Steele turned her head. Sybil Jordan, go to the forum. You and Joshua Steele are about to have a baby. I quickly get on the forum. Someone posted a picture of me and Joshua Steele having breakfast on the forum. Only the scene where I feed Joshua Steele tea eggs. Hundreds of comments followed. Joshua Steele looks at Sybil Jordan with a lot of eyes. Sybil Jordan's face is red. I have it. You don't know, Sybil Jordan is going to Joshua Steele today. Joshua Steele responds in a high-profile manner to cover Sybil Jordan. School bully is in love. It's really different from us mortals. It is said that the two got together because of a bowl of soup. What soup? Cupid's soup. Under a bunch of comments that forcibly knocked CP, the statement of an unfamiliar ID was particularly eye-catching. What kind of couple are Joshua Steele and Sybil Jordan? That's the kind of relationship they have. Paid. Anyone who understands understands, 1,000 at a time. Joshua Steele is a big deal. Sybil Jordan is having a good time outside. I don't know what I'm looking for her. My figure isn't as good as mine. Some people questioned. Just open your mouth and come. Today they had breakfast, and I sat next to them and heard it with my own ears. Damn, it's so exciting. Looking at it that way, Sybil Jordan isn't a good commodity either. My hands and feet are cold, horrible. Before I could react, the screen said, "This comment has been deleted." Before I could take a screenshot, my lips were shaking in anger. The feeling of powerlessness engulfed me for a moment, and I stared blankly at the screen. Several comments poured out at once, which were unsightly. Suddenly I was a little out of breath. Even today, it is easy to destroy a woman's reputation. At first, it was made up casually, and then it was passed on by word of mouth. They call themselves righteous and spit in your face at will. Nobody cares about the truth. No one cares about the facts. No one cares about the evidence. For a moment, my hands and feet went soft, as if I had been drained of my strength. Alas, Joshua Steele is online. Hearing Xaviera Steele's voice, I slowly looked up and looked at the screen. Screenshots. Joshua Steele actually took a screenshot of. Sit next to me, Morrible is you, right? When the third is still spreading rumors. I said, why are you so familiar? It's you who used the trumpet to talk to me. Can't pick me up? Jump to your feet? Immediately after that, there is a screenshot of the chat log. The other party sent several explicit photos to Joshua Steele. Bare breasts, bare legs, and restricted level photos. I just didn't show my face. The avatar and expression habits all match that ID. The comment area exploded directly. No one expected that so many men would jump out. Lao Tzu is green. Hook up with someone behind my back. When did you talk about it? We were shopping yesterday. Didn't she go to the new campus for an event? I'm on the new campus. Brothers, pull the group. Let's take a look at the timeline. I smiled unkindly. This is the legendary high-end Queen of the Sea. I feel sorry for the cuckold on Jonathan Agnes' head. I'm still worried about whether his hat is warm enough, and Xaviera Steele snorts. Sybil Jordan, look. Joshua Steele, so just. I quickly pulled down, and Joshua Steele left Morrible with a paragraph. I didn't even say it, and you heard it. If you have the ability to put on a recording, no evidence is slander, waiting to receive a summons. Morrible immediately changed her tune. I heard something wrong in the morning. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry, don't sue me. Also have times when they are deflated. One word, cool. Unfortunately, the comment section is high again. The school bully's high-profile protection of his wife slapped her in the face. I'm not a wife, don't talk nonsense. Joshua Steele, when are you going to marry someone home? Someone can't wait. I quickly chatted with him privately. Clarify. What? Our relationship. What do you think we're in relationship? It seems like a money deal. Is this appropriate? No. Good. Let them misunderstand. Okay. I stared at the chat log, as if something was wrong, and I couldn't tell. All night, I'm both jumping up and down, the heart fluctuates. I was so excited that I couldn't sleep. The next day, I was facing a screen full of missed calls, and 3 question marks. Where's my breakfast? Silence. Woo 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 woo. Shall I treat you to dinner? Make up for it. Okay. Before dinner, I watched a wave of variety shows. At a glance, Joshua Steele is out of class. I hurriedly sent him a WeChat message. You go slowly, I'll go and occupy a seat first. I've arrived. What do you eat? Yes. Excuse me, steak and borscht. How do you know? I don't have eyes. You almost stripped them all last time. A noisy cafeteria. I walked over to Joshua Steele, and there was a constant number of plausible glances around me. I bowed my head and quietly clicked on the forum, and the front line really turned on the melon eating mode. Joshua Steele looks arrogant, but I didn't expect it to be a strict wife. Joshua Steele is in charge of the cooking. Sybil Jordan is in charge of the food. It's too much of a spoiler. How do you describe me? Like a rice bucket? Irrelevant people are knocking CP. Only the parties know that we are actually debt collection relationships. Joshua Steele snapped his chopsticks. Sybil Jordan, what are you doing? You've been a little confused lately. Who are the creditors? You. Why do I think you're the creditor? There is a little bit of weakness. As I finished my meal with trepidation, Joshua Steele suddenly spoke. Something happened at night. Nope. Let's go shopping. Heh. I'm a little confused. Give. Joshua Steele paused as if thinking. Buy some clothes for my sister. You're about the same size. Try them for me. Joshua Steele is such a good brother. In luxury stores, I just need to take a second look. Waiter, try it for her. I didn't dare to look at my eyes. Which color is pretty? All colors. This is probably how the rich sweep the goods. Even though I didn't buy it for me, I think it's really enjoyable. Mall aisles. Joshua Steele has both hands full of shopping bags, and I, bagless, are light. Divide me. With me here, which round will get you? So what do I do? Do you really want to help? I'm sweating. Wipe it for me. This guy doesn't have the slightest sense of bending over. I tiptoed slowly. His gaze swept over his collarbone, his Adam's apple. Slide up the jaw. Stop at the red and full lip flap. I couldn't help it. Swallowed. There was a sudden knock on the glass door next to it. I was startled, and the whole person pounced on him. As he steadied himself, his hands were on his waist, and his lips were on his collarbone. Joshua Steele's whole body shuddered. Did you know that boys can't touch their waists? This sentence rang in my ears, and I immediately bounced 3 paces away. Joshua Steele walked on her long legs, approaching step by step, her slightly trembling eyelashes pressing down little by little. Don't be impulsive. I was just careless. This line is so familiar. Did I say that? When I pushed him just now, I touched his waist again. I quickly put my hands behind my back to cover up the crime. Joshua Steele leaned over. Sybil Jordan. My body shook. How? You say all the good things, and the cheap is not less. It seems impossible to refute. You just hugged me, didn't you? You just kissed me, didn't you? Say it yourself. What should I do? The heart in his chest was beating so fast that it felt like it was going to explode. The brain went blank. I heard my own voice. Will you come back? What am I talking about? Joshua Steele's lips were only a centimeter away from me. Where's the kiss? My face flushed. I tugged at the corner of his coat. You first get up from me. That sounds. What's weird? Joshua Steele's face seemed to be red as well. The night was dark. My heart was beating and exploded like fireworks. Downstairs in the dormitory, Joshua Steele looked at me, with a gentle look in his eyes. Walked with me for 2 hours. Are you tired? Tired. After all, I tried on so many clothes. He seemed satisfied, and handed over the bag in one hand. Wow. What reward? I froze. For me. You do me a favor, hard work. This. It's too much to give. Buy 2 pieces of each. I didn't. He leaned over and blinked like a child begging for praise. Sybil Jordan, how am I? My face flushed. I can't take it. Joshua Steele's smile disappeared instantly, staring at me tightly. Why? He looked at me with a look of loss and grievance in his eyes. I stared at my toes, not daring to look at him. It's too expensive. As soon as he gave it away, it was hundreds of thousands. How dare I accept it? A bony hand touched my head. Sorry for my money. I lifted my eyes and didn't speak. Joshua Steele's eyes sparkled. Sybil Jordan, who are you to mine and want to save me money? It seems to be dizzy by him. Joshua Steele brows. You're not my wife. What money do you save me? My face was so hot that I couldn't speak. He stuffed the bag into my arms. Yeah is not bad for money, but yeah is bad for. He stopped talking. I looked at him and whispered, can I go back? Joshua Steele curled her lips. Think I'm wasted? I nodded repeatedly. Sybil Jordan. Joshua Steele pressed to my ear. My wife can care how I spend my money. I shoved the bag into his arms, turned and ran. At 11 o'clock, I was lying in bed and couldn't sleep. Joshua Steele's words echoed in his ears. Sybil Jordan, my wife can only care how I spend my money. Is this a euphemistic confession? Joshua Steele. Does he like me? I've had this thought before, but I've never dared to think about it. With a wave of his hand, it was hundreds of thousands, and my living expenses are only 2,000. If we weren't admitted to the same school, we would be like 2 parallel lines, and it would be impossible for them to intersect. Even if they intersect for a short time, they will eventually return to their respective tracks. That's not as good as never starting. When the alarm went off, I sent Joshua Steele a WeChat message. I have a terrible stomach ache today, and I can't have breakfast with you. I thought about it and added, you know, the girl's condition may last for a while. The window paper in my heart was pierced, and I suddenly didn't know how to face Joshua Steele. During the lunch break, I walked to the dormitory alone, catch a glimpse of a familiar figure, Jonathan Agnes. I stood there and wondered if I wanted to go back to my dorm. The next second, he looked up at me. No, I can't hide. Jonathan Agnes walked up to me. You and Joshua Steele. I didn't bother to pay attention to him. What's the matter with you? I tried to go around, and he grabbed my hand violently. I've inquired. You're not together. That's not your turn. Let go. Jonathan Agnes didn't let go, handing over a bag of desserts. It's all your favorite food before. Have you forgotten? I waited in line all morning to get it. I laughed slowly, and everything went sour. From the moment he split Morrible, we're done. I struggled. Jonathan Agnes, I'm not your dog. Just wave and roll. He clenched tighter. That's not what I meant. I miss you so much. Sybil Jordan. Suddenly, a voice came out of thin air. My people, you dared to make up your mind. Jonathan Agnes stiffened and quickly let go of me. His lips pursed, and his voice was as thin as a mosquito. Joshua Steele looked at him condescendingly with his hands in his pockets. Jonathan Agnes, hey, ask yourself if you are worthy. A scumbag like you should be a queen of the sea like Morrible. One for flowers, one for a green hat. You are each other's best partners. Jonathan Agnes looked at Joshua Steele, then at me, and said nothing. With a white face, he turned around and left. Jonathan Agnes. Joshua Steele's voice rang out, and his steps snapped. Don't fight Sybil Jordan. If you let me know, don't blame me for not warning you. Okay. Jonathan Agnes was too scared to look at Joshua Steele. I looked at his gray back and felt relaxed. Thank you, Joshua Steele. Joshua Steele looked at me and didn't speak. I'll go first. As soon as he turned around, He suddenly spoke. Sybil Jordan. What's wrong? Thank me. Just hiding from me. I didn't hide from you. Then wait for you. Joshua Steele snapped, the tips of her ears reddening. Can we still have breakfast together? Joshua Steele in my eyes is always arrogant and unruly. Looking at my eyes now, they are cautious, and my heart feels like something has stung me. I moved my lips, and he seemed more nervous. The next second, he bent and rubbed my head hard. Sybil Jordan, can you please stop thinking so much? I'm just your creditor, nothing else. 28 days later, he paused, his voice lowered. You don't owe me anything. It's so angry. If I were a cat, I'd have to blow up my fur by now. Joshua Steele, I owe you. I don't owe you hair. Joshua Steele slipped away. The back looks particularly underwhelming. My relationship with Joshua Steele is business as usual. He will make me happy, but he will never go above and beyond. Ask me out to dinner occasionally, but not beyond my spending level. No one mentioned the clothes again. 28 days flew by. The last day happened to be Joshua Steele's birthday. Staggering, playing cards and drinking. I smiled, but my heart felt like an empty piece. I don't have to get up early every day, but I can't be happy. Joshua Steele and I probably won't be in touch again. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but drink a few more glasses. The next day, I slept in a daze. Someone downstairs shouted something. Come down. It's early in the morning. Who's disturbing the people? It makes my ears hurt. Sybil Jordan. Come down. Sybil Jordan. Come down. The TM. Why do you seem to be calling me? I hurried down the hallway and looked down. Boy. 5 or 6 boys, tall and loud, took turns calling my name. Joshua Steele stood in the middle, looking at me from afar. What's going on? I wrapped my coat around and rushed downstairs. Rushing in front of Joshua Steele, I suddenly froze. He smiled brightly. Come and get your daughter-in-law. He glanced at them and shouted, hello sister-in-law, which made me blush. I looked at him pleadingly. Joshua Steele. Joshua Steele looked down at me, with a gentle look in his eyes. Don't remember anything. Joshua Steele pulled me to the back of the dorm building, pulled out his phone, and showed me a video. The box was dimly lit, and my groping hand slowly leaned towards Joshua Steele. He pressed down violently. A man's abs can't be touched casually. I let out a drunken, oh. Just as he was about to retract his hand, he held it down again. Girlfriend's words. You can touch it. I blinked, confused. He smiled. Do you want to touch it? Nodding. And you're going to be my girlfriend? Why did you nod again? I stared at the screen, looking at the wanton image, and my face began to burn. Joshua Steele's voice was hoarse. Don't touch. I looked at him confusedly. Why? His voice was stoic. Something will happen. What? The next second, my lips were gagged. A long, deep kiss. Joshua Steele held me in his arms, breathing unsteadily. Like this, I swayed my head up. Joshua Steele. Hey, I didn't expect it. You're not bad. As soon as he finished speaking, his lips pressed up again. It took 3 minutes before he let go of me. Slender fingers, gently rubbing my lips. Let you talk too much. Will you dare next time? Dare. I'm drunk. Is it so bold? The evidence is so ironclad that I can't seem to escape. I blushed as I watched Joshua Steele take her phone back. Just as he was about to breathe a sigh of relief, he heard him say, it's nothing, there's a video. I blushed and glanced twice. I lay on Joshua Steele's back, and he called girlfriend and I answered him. Suddenly, I tapped Joshua Steele on the shoulder. You go over there and shout, and say, Joshua Steele is Sybil Jordan's. Joshua Steele finished shouting, and there was silence for a second, and the heckling and screaming came overwhelmingly. I held Joshua Steele's face and kissed it. That's good. I stared at the screen, and my face instantly burned like a stove. Joshua Steele took me into her arms, and said in a low voice, like a child, "What should I do? It's such a fuss. No one will want me but you." I hesitated. "But, your sister and your parents, can they agree with us?" Joshua Steele's face changed slightly. "You're avoiding me, just worried about this." Sybil Jordan, are you stupid? I don't have a sister. Hey, that shopping trip. I'm afraid you don't have any clothes to wear. So, he was concerned about my self-esteem, so he went around such a big circle, but I still rejected it. He was. I guess it's sad. I felt even more guilty. I'm. Joshua Steele gritted her teeth. Lie to me. He seemed to be angry, and I didn't dare to speak. His voice softened. I'm hurt. How can you compensate me? Before I could speak, Joshua Steele reminded me warmly. Sybil Jordan, you owe me a kiss. His lips are so soft and hot. My whole body was soft in his arms. A deep voice drilled into the ears. Sybil Jordan, now, you don't owe me. For the rest of your life, I owe you, and I will pay you for the rest of my life. Okay. I blushed and tugged at the corner of his coat, unable to speak. Your little brain. Why do you always think about it? My parents. I'll take care of it. What the hell are you doing? You just need to be Sybil Jordan. You don't need to be a good daughter-in-law. Remember? I hugged him tightly, and let out a soft, He seemed to remember something, and his voice gritted his teeth a little. If you still refuse to spend my money, whose money are you going to spend? Still is. You want to leave it all to Sylvia Steele. Heh. What? Sylvia Steele is a good name. That's what the baby's nickname is. Now, I really can't listen to it anymore, and I can't help but call him Joshua Steele. Heh. Joshua Steele's voice was hoarse. Call me what? Seeing that his lips were about to be pasted again, I quickly changed my words. Husband. The end.